Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Radio's outstanding theater of thrills on this Monday, Suspense, an episode from 67 years ago, May 8th, 1956, The Phones Die First. And we thank you for tuning in on this Monday. This is the 8th day of May, 128th day of the year, 237 days remaining in the year. Pharmacist Dr. John Scythe Pemberton invented a carbonated beverage in 1886. It would later be known as Coca-Cola. Paramount Pictures formed on this date in 1914. In 1945, VE Day, German forces agreed to an unconditional surrender.
This is a solemn but a glorious hour. I only wish that Franklin D. Roosevelt had lived to witness this day. General Eisenhower informs me that the forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations. The flags of freedom fly all over Europe.
In 1970, the Hard Hat Riot occurred in the Wall Street area of New York City as blue-collar construction workers clashed with anti-war demonstrators protesting the Vietnam War. 1972, President Nixon announced his order to place mines in major North Vietnamese ports in order to stem the flow of weapons and other goods to that nation. 1973, a 71-day standoff between federal authorities and the American Indian Movement members occupying the Pine Ridge Reservation at Wounded Knee, South Dakota, ended with the surrender of the militants. 1984, the Soviet Union announced it would boycott the 1984 Summer Olympics.
We're paying the price for 1980, and again, the ones that are hurt are the athletes.
President of the Los Angeles Olympic Organizing Committee, Peter Ueberroth, who would go on to be the commissioner of Major League Baseball. Amid accusations of marital infidelity with Donna Rice, Gary Hart dropped out of the presidential race on this date in 1987.
Clearly, under present circumstances, this campaign cannot go on. I refuse to submit my family and my friends and innocent people and myself to further rumors and gossip. It's simply an intolerable situation. I believe I would have been a successful candidate, and I know I could have been a very good president, particularly for these times. But apparently now we'll never know.
Gary Hart would go quietly into that good night following dropping out of the presidential race in 1987. In 1996, Julie Andrews, star of the Broadway musical Victor Victoria, announced she was withdrawing her name from consideration for the 1996 Tony Award as Best Actress in a Musical.
I have searched my conscience and my heart, and I find that, sadly, I cannot accept this nomination, and I prefer instead to stand with the egregiously overlooked
Andrews made the announcement in a minute-long speech at the curtain call of the May 8th matinee, saying she considered the nomination a snub for the rest of the show. The incident stimulated ticket sales for the musical, and Andrews declined to perform at the Tony Awards ceremony, which suffered that year from a lack of star power. The new Canadian War Museum opened on this date in 2005 in commemoration of the 60th anniversary of VE Day. 2006, President George W. Bush briefed reporters on the just-signed Darfur peace agreement, which would bring violence to an end in the Sudan.
I've called this massive violence an act of genocide because no other word captures the extent of this tragedy.
The peace agreement would lead to militia disarmament in the violence-laden area. Among those passing away on this date in history, Laverne Andrews of the Andrews Sisters, science fiction writer Robert A. Heinlein, Also, actor George Peppard, Watergate figure Bebe Rebozo, British actor Dirk Bogarde, also from Different Strokes, Dana Plato, singer-songwriter, guitarist, and actor Eddie Arnold, Make the World Go Away. What a wonderful singer. And the president of the Screen Actors Guild, but probably best known for his character roles. First one comes to mind is the dad in the Patty Duke Show, William Shallard, passing away on this date in history. This is the birth date of Harry Truman. Also, Bishop Fulton J. Sheen, Arthur Q. Bryant, who had so many wonderful voice roles. Did he do Porky Pig? Or was that, I know he did Elmer Fudd, and you hear him on a lot of our classic radio theater programs. Doc Gamble in the Fibber McGee and Molly Show. Arthur Q. Bryant, born on this date. Also, comedian Don Rickles, you hockey puck. He was such a funny guy, and you know, he would never survive acting today and being a comedian today because he was just too cutting edge, even for now. Back then, it was more acceptable. Well, you know. Anyway, Sonny Liston, fine boxer, born on this date in history. Author Peter Benchley, singer Ricky Nelson. You remember him from the Ozzie and Harriet show. He was Ozzie Nelson and Harriet Nelson's son. And John Fred and the Playboy Band, Lucy in Disguise with Glasses. Let's see. Still with us today, singer Tony Tennille, 83, musician Gary Glitter, 79 years old, a fine pianist, Keith Jarrett, 78. From Earth, Wind, and Fire, Philip Bailey, 72 years old today. From Little House on the Prairie, Melissa Gilbert, 59. Singer Enrico Iglesias, 48. From Legally Blonde and the Vampire Diaries, Matthew Davis is 45. From Arrow, Stephen Amell, who also is a part-time pro wrestler, you know that. Stephen Amell is 42. And WWE's Tommaso Ciampa is 38. Those just a few of the people who celebrate the 8th day of May as their birthday, and if this happens to be your birthday...
Hi, we're the 4 freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you!
And from 67 years ago today, May 8th, 1956, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense, The Phones Die First, starring Harry Bartell. That's up next on this Monday, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite radio station. You know Harry Bartell's voice. You've heard it on all sorts of classic radio programs. He was a character actor on the West Coast from the early 40s until the end of network radio drama, then did some television work along the way. You've heard him on Escape, on Gunsmoke, on Fort Laramie. He was Lieutenant Syberts there, and a lot of other shows. New Adventures of Nero Wolfe, the Charlotte Greenwood Show, and he was also on Rogers of the Gazette and a lot of other shows that I would take the rest of this half hour to tell you about. But all I can tell you... Oh, and he was also on Norman Corwin's VE Day special On a Note of Triumph, which will be posted as a podcast special a little later on. But Harry Bartell, a fine, fine radio actor who passed away in Ashland, Oregon, February of 2004 at the age of 90. And a fine, fine radio actor. And we need say nothing more except from May 8th, 1956, Suspense on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
And now, tonight's presentation of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense. Tonight, we bring you a story based on fact. A man's last hours in a death cell awaiting execution. We call it The Phones Die First. So now, starring Harry Bartell, here is tonight's suspense play, The Phones Die First.
Bradley speaking. Oh, yes, Warden. Brunner, a visit? But it's almost 4. Well, Brunner's due downstairs, you understand. All right, if you say so, sir. I'll call the road right away.
Sarge? Sarge?
Yeah, Brunner.
How about these law books? I got a lot of them here.
You can give them to the library if you want, or the fellas here. Whatever you want to do.
How about the guys, huh?
Fine with me.
Well, that's about everything. Except my personal stuff. Do I have time, Sarge?
It's not quite 4 yet. Oh, excuse me, Brunner.
Sure.
Hello? Yes, sir. He's about ready. Oh, Captain, are you coming over to go with Brunner? Or shall we? Oh, fine. Yeah, he's all right. Yeah, we'll do. Bye. Bill.
Yes, Sarge?
The captain's on his way up for Brunner. You and Doug take the gun rail, just in case, you know.
Right, Sarge. You know something?
What?
I'll be glad when the cap takes me off this tour. Each time one of them poor devils takes the big walk, I do too.
You'll get used to it. They do.
Hello, boys.
Afternoon, Captain.
We got a problem.
Oh?
Warden called me. Brunner's got a specially approved visit. His sister.
You going to take him downstairs first?
No, I don't think so. I think we'll take him over to my office to visit with her and then downstairs from there. Hello, Frank.
Oh, Cab.
How's it going?
Okay, I guess.
It's just about 4, Frank.
Yeah.
But first, you got a visit.
Me? Who?
Your sister.
Oh, I thought maybe it was my lawyer with some news.
Well, if there is any, Frank, you'll hear. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, Cap, I won't worry.
Sergeant tells me you want to say goodbye to some of the fellas up here. Well, that's okay with me if you do, but not too long, huh?
When am I seeing my sister?
As soon as we leave here, in my office.
We aren't coming back here, huh?
No, Frank.
Downstairs?
Unlock Brunner, will you?
Yes, sir.
I'll wait for you at the elevator gate, Frank.
Thanks, Cap.
You got everything, Brunner?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Frank. Over here.
Don't worry, I hadn't forgotten you, Whitey.
I'll take care of your pictures for you if you want.
Well, thanks, but I already gave them to the Sarge here. He's going to send them home.
Oh.
But I tell you what you can do. You can take his dictionary of mine. Maybe it'll do you some good.
What do I want with a book has a lot of big words in it? Where we're going... Yeah, sure, Frank, I'd like it. Thanks. Dream the big dream for me, will you?
So long, Whitey.
So long, Frank. Hey, Frank.
What's happening, Lucky?
Nothing shaking.
I'd like you to take these books here off my hands, would you?
Oh, sure. We can all use them.
No, especially you. They've had a charm for you. They kept you from taking the walk I'm taking today.
I don't know. I've got a terrible hunch I'm turning the last few pages.
No, you keep writing those writs. Those law books still work. Maybe not always in time for everybody, but they've done all right for you.
Gee, Frank, I wish... you know.
Sure, I understand.
We'll be thinking about you tomorrow.
Do that. Hi, kid.
Brunner?
How you doing?
Sick of this crummy place.
You're not in a hurry to leave it, are you?
I don't know. This whole joint.
You want to go with me?
If you think I'll kiss anybody goodbye, you're crazy. No one's ever handed me anything. I don't expect them to do it now.
You have it your way, kid. I think you're all noise.
Listen, Brunner, I don't see giving these bulls anything. When I go, they want to have an extra goon squad waiting because I'm going to leave them something to remember me by.
Kid, I ain't got much time to talk. I want you to have something of mine. Here.
What is it? Tom Sawyer. You a jokester?
No, I want you to have it.
I don't get it.
Well, you read it. Maybe it'll make you see somebody you never knew. When everything was wonderful tomorrow.
Sure, Bruno. I'll read it in the easy chair downstairs.
Sure, kid. I'll be seeing you.
Sure thing.
Sorry about the kid, Frank. He talks too much.
You get scared all kinds of ways, Cap.
Yeah, maybe so. You ready, Frank?
No. Let's go.
Bruner, I'm going to leave you and your sister alone in my office. It's not routine, but this time we'll forget routine for a moment. I want you to promise me you'll come when I call you. Agreed, Frank?
Thanks, Cap.
Frank? Frank?
Hello, sis.
Oh, Frank.
And now listen, honey, we haven't got much time. We shouldn't spend it bawling, huh?
You're right.
How'd you get up here?
The train?
How's Mom and Dad?
Oh, Frank.
I ask you a question, honey.
They're fine. You know they send their love.
I'm glad you made them stay home. There's no need of it.
How have you been, darling?
Fine.
They tell me that this is our last chance to visit.
That's right, honey.
Oh, Frank.
Listen, Ruthie, listen close. There's not much time left. I want you to do something for me, something important. You understand?
Yes.
I want you to call Alice's family.
What?
I want you to call Alice's family.
But, Frank...
Please, honey. I killed Alice, but I want them to know, as I've always said, that it wasn't from hate or anything like that. It just hurt. Knowing after all those years that we were together, that she really cared for someone else.
I will, Frank, I promise.
I couldn't see life without her, and it was even worse to live knowing that she was with someone else and not me. If I couldn't have her, nobody else could. Maybe they'll understand.
Frank.
Listen, honey, I want you to go now, please.
But, darling...
No, Ruthie, this is no good for both of us. You go on.
Oh, Frank, why? Why?
Would you give me a kiss?
Frank.
Thanks, honey. Now go. Go on. So this is it, huh, Sarge? Last stop. When I was upstairs on the row, I used to see him come down here the afternoon before, just like today. I always wondered. And the wondering's over.
Got enough cigarettes?
You know, I don't smoke much, Sarge. It's bad for the system. Hey, what time did Cap say he'd be back?
Around 6.
Well, it's almost that now, isn't it?
Just about.
Time is something we'll all be keeping track of pretty close the next 14 hours, huh?
Okay.
Sorry, Frank. I'm late, I know.
Well, that's all right, Cap. I'm in no hurry, believe me.
Warden's coming over around 9.
You think he'll have any news?
Well, I understand he's been in touch with the state capitol. It's routine, of course, you know.
I don't have much of a chance, do I, Cap?
I really don't know, Frank.
Well, I know.
Anything I can get you, Frank?
Yeah, there is. A phonograph.
I think that can be arranged.
And some nice records. Something classical. Something easy on the ear.
I'll certainly try. Meanwhile, Chaplin's asked if you want to see him.
Of course I do. I'm no fool. Tomorrow morning isn't going to be easy. I never kidded myself on that. I don't want to walk in there alone.
Hey, Whitey. Whitey.
What?
Lights will be out in a minute or two. 10 o'clock.
So?
I wonder what Bruner's doing.
He's probably doing it hard.
He was an okay guy. Never could quite figure. Hey, what'd he give you?
His dictionary.
Dictionary?
Bartell, a really, really good actor. From May 8th, 1956, Suspense, The Phones Die First, starring Harry Bartell, on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The news from 67 years ago today follows these important messages from your favorite station. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, Mike Lindell and MyPillow launching the MyPillow 2.0. Now, when Mike invented MyPillow, it had everything you could want in a pillow. Now, nearly 20 years later, he's discovered a new technology that makes MyPillow even better. Of course, the patented adjustable fill of the original MyPillow, but now with brand new fabric with a temperature-regulating thread, it's the softest, smoothest, and coolest pillow you'll ever own. Say goodbye to tossing and turning and flipping your pillow over in the middle of the night. And more great news on the MyPillow 2.0 buy one, get one free offer with my promo code Wyatt. MyPillow 2.0 is 100% made in the USA, 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio podcast square to receive the MyPillow 2.0 buy one, get one free offer. Use my promo code Wyatt or call 1-800-928-4715. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on this Monday on your favorite radio station. We're listening to an episode of Suspense, The Phones Die First, starring Harry Bartell, as it was originally broadcast on Tuesday, May 8th, 1956, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. In the newspapers of that Tuesday 67 years ago, these were some of the headlines. Republican congressional leaders told President Eisenhower the outlook is good for passage of a new farm bill that will be satisfactory to him. They offered that assurance at their weekly White House Legislative Conference with the chief executive. The House tried last week to pass a second try-farm bill. It's built around Mr. Eisenhower's $1.2 billion soil bank program, but omits a return to rigid high-price supports, which prompted Mr. Eisenhower to veto the earlier farm bill. The new bill is now before the Senate Agriculture Committee. Rebel massacre of French farmers and French military counterattack Tuesday boosted the death toll in Algeria to nearly 200 persons since the weekend. Algerian nationalists raiding and pillaging farms of French settlers west of Oran. They killed at least 40 farmers, including 20 slain Sunday night. Defense Secretary Charles E. Wilson categorically denied reports that Russia is far outstripping the U.S. in air power. Wilson saying this is not so. Talking to a Senate Appropriations Subcommittee, Wilson disclosed that U.S. production of B-52 intercontinental jet bombers will build up to a peak of 20 planes a month. He did not say when this peak output will be reached, but defense sources indicated it will be early in 1958. And the armed forces plan to spend $3 billion for research, development, and production of guided missiles during the fiscal year starting next July 1st. Secretary of State John Foster Dulles reports to the American people tonight on the weekly NATO Council meeting, which he already has called a turning point in Western history. Dulles returned from the Paris meeting Monday and reported to President Eisenhower on the 15-nation conference in which he began the new American effort to weld the Western democracies into a single political force. The Navy launched its Aero-B High rocket, shooting for a new altitude record, but the rocket climbed only to 116.5 miles into the atmosphere, far short of a record and hoped-for heights. A spokesman said there was no major malfunction and that the launching was a success for purposes of testing the performance of the new type rocket. but he said the performance was not nearly what had been anticipated. 8-year-old David Eisenhower, who looks and acts like his famous grandfather, now has taken up his grandfather's game. His teacher, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania golf pro Dick Sleichter, noticed a big difference in the way the two play, however. Sleichter says young David is much more calm and deliberate than grandfather Ike. Though some of the day's top news stories, as reported in the newspapers of Tuesday, May 8, 1956, on your radio Suspense, which continues now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
You know what he gave me? Tom Sawyer. Can you imagine?
Listen, kid. He had you figured a long time ago when you first come up here. Yet all you did when he came by this afternoon was lip off.
What was I supposed to do? Break down in tears?
Don't be so sure of yourself. But like I was saying, guys like him you never figure out. First they're with you, and then you're sitting like us right now remembering them. And you're glad they were with you.
What could I say?
I don't know.
Hey, Whitey, you think Brunner will really go tomorrow morning?
Who knows?
Well, one of the bulls was telling me a couple of weeks ago that when one of us gets it, they knock off all the phones an hour before. Said something about keeping the lines clear except for the one downstairs. Real slick, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, real slick. Everything dies in order. The free world when you come in here, then the last light of day in the afternoon before. And just before they sit you down in a little green room, they kill all the phones. And then they go about killing you.
You are listening to The Phones Die First, tonight's presentation in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
"67 years ago, May 8, 1956, Suspense on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Comedy on Tuesday's Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, Harold Perry and the Great Gildersleeve from 80 years ago, May 9th, 1943, The Wedding List. Leela gets angry when Gildersleeve decides to play poker with the boys. Will a gift of candy do the trick? That's coming up on Tuesday's Classic Radio Theater, but let's wrap up this Monday edition. Suspense, 67 years ago, May 8th, 1956. Harry-Bartell starring in The Phones Die First.
And now we bring back to our Hollywood soundstage Harry-Bartell, starring in tonight's production, The Phones Die First, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Hello, Frank. I'm Father Malahan.
Hello.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece you're playing.
Yeah, Father. I'll turn it off if you want.
No, please don't. It's beautiful. I understand you're a Protestant.
Yeah?
You asked for a priest? You know, there's a Protestant chaplain here who...
Yeah, I know, Father. He's probably a right guy, but I don't know how to say it.
What?
I've heard ever since I came to this place practically a year ago that you were quite a good Joe. I'm sorry, Father. I didn't mean it.
Please, I'm flattered. You wanted a friend.
Yeah.
Well, Frank, I suppose when it's all said and done, what is religion? Faith, but a friend to sort of hold on to. Hey, I've been so busy all day, I haven't really eaten anything yet. How about you?
I'm not too hungry.
Oh, come on. You're not going to let me eat alone, are you? Tell you what we'll do. We'll phone from here and have Smitty send up something.
Smitty, you're a brave warrior, Father.
Oh, I see. You've heard of Smithy, our prize chef, huh? Well, he can't do any more than...
And kill us, Father?
I don't think that's called for, do you, Frank?
I'm sorry.
Well, what are you going to have, Frank? I'll match you, dish for dish. Oh. I should have known better than to try to eat more than a Dutchman.
I think you did pretty good, Father, considering that you haven't got much to stow your food away.
Hey, you casting aspersions at this thin house of mine? You'd be surprised.
What time is it?
Midnight. A little past.
Would you mind, Father, staying here tonight? I know it isn't the best hotel, but...
Be glad to.
The fellas were right. You're an okay.
Where's your home, Frank?
You mean where I was born or where I live?
Both.
I was born in Seattle, but I spent most of my life up around Modesto.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful farming country. I've been through there often.
We aren't so far from it here.
No, we're not.
In about 10 hours from now, I'll be a long ways away.
Frank, you a fatalist?
No, Father. But I know when not to kid myself.
Oh, I don't think it's kidding yourself to believe that even though we may be in some dire straits, that often we actually come out of them.
Not this time.
Well, if I were you, I'd sort of put my trust in someone much more sure than you and me. Then I'd relax as best I knew how.
Sure.
Yes?
Mr. Johnson?
Oh, Miss Bruner, I was just going to call you. I have an appointment with the governor at 9 this morning.
Is he in town?
Yes, we're in luck. He left the capital last night, and this morning my secretary called me that he's staying with friends here.
Have you already talked with him?
Yes, but just briefly. He's agreed to talk with me regarding Frank this morning. Miss Bruner.
Yes.
Don't raise your hopes at this late hour. As Frank's lawyer, all I can do is present what we've presented before and had turned down.
I understand, Mr. Johnson, but you can't blame me for hanging on and believing.
No, of course not. I promise I'll call you when I hear definite news.
You'll call regardless of what it might be.
Yes, I promise.
Good morning, Father.
Good morning, Captain.
Bruner, how are you?
Thanks for the records you sent over and the phonograph.
Well, I was glad to do it. Bruner, the warden won't be over until time. He told me to tell you he'll be in personal touch with the governor this morning.
You're in time for breakfast, Captain.
I don't mind if I do.
You feel like trusting Smitty again, Frank?
What have I got to lose?
You know, Captain, I'm getting to be a freeloader around here. Last night, again this morning. What'll the budget director say?
I think he'd say, let's eat.
All right, Captain. Let's have orange juice, bacon and eggs, hot cakes, toast, and strong black coffee. More coffee, Frank? How about you, Captain?
No, thanks, Father. I've got to be going. There's some things I've got to attend to.
Captain.
Yes, Bruner?
I'd like to ask you something.
Sure.
When it comes time this morning, which isn't too long now, I want just you and the father to go with me. You won't need any guards. Will you promise?
I'll see, Bruner.
Hey, Whitey?
Lucky.
You checking the time?
Who ain't?
Frank was all right, huh? I wish he could have been around longer.
Hey, you're the lawyer up here. How about this last-minute stay routine? Couldn't Frank get it as well as the next guy? Hey, you know, we've seen him get him.
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock now.
they're going to give him one, they better be warming up the warden's phone.
I'd like to see him come up that elevator again. It'll do us all good.
Are you guys praying over there?
Why don't you drop dead?
Oh, no. No, they're going to have to do the honors for me.
Hey, Whitey, you ever see such a screwball?
You'll meet a different kid come his time to follow Frank. Believe me.
Father, I'm scared.
If you weren't, I wouldn't understand you.
Will it hurt?
Frank, do you trust me?
You know I do.
Then I want you not to say anything more. All right?
But, Father,
I like you, Frank. Because you know something? You're like a brother of mine.
Is he a priest?
No, he's making money, a contractor in St. Paul.
I'm glad you became a priest.
I am too, Frank, because I met you.
You're just being nice.
Oh, no, Frank. I'd say this had we met outside. You know, we can't really judge our fellow man always by what he does or doesn't do. What we see is but a little bit of the man. God sees all of him. What's important? The heart. The intent of his life. I wouldn't worry if I were you, Frank. Whatever comes.
Father, I don't know what I would have done without you. You're a good friend.
Will all of those of you who have proper identification and credentials for admittance to the chamber area prepare them now for showing before entering? I must remind you again that no smoking or talking will be allowed once you're in the outer chamber itself. And I must remind you also that once you are inside, you will not be allowed to leave. Should you feel the need for assistance at any time during the ensuing proceedings, a custodial officer will be there to assist you. May I say now, if there's any among you who wishes to leave, you may do so. Very well. You will sign the register inside the chamber, giving your name, address, and professional capacity. I recognize a few faces in the group, but to those who are here for the first time, we do not treat these proceedings as a show, but a grim task to be done as quickly and mercifully as possible. Will you come with me, please?
Chamber. Yes? Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll tell him. Yes, sir. Brunner, it was the warden.
Yeah?
He hasn't been able to reach the governor.
Yeah, I know. The warden couldn't reach him. He just don't want to be reached.
Frank.
That's your show, Father. The make-believe's all.
Frank. Will you listen to me?
I have been, Father, and I'm still going through that green door over there.
Frank, as a friend. As a friend, would you pray with me? It's a prayer we both know, that I'm sure. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done.
Father, we're ready.
So are we. Would you give us a moment?
Surely.
Frank, would you put your hand in mine for just a moment?
Sure, Father.
And then we'll walk like only friends can. Side by side. Each giving strength and peace to the other.
Father.
I'm with you.
Father won't have to go.
Yes, of course. Come on, Frank. Let's walk together.
Chamber. Yes? Warden! Warden! It's the governor's office.
Father. Father.
Yes, Frank. We're going to be all right.
Suspense, in which harry-bartell starred in tonight's presentation of The Phones Die First. Suspense. Suspense is produced and directed in Hollywood by Anthony Ellis. Tonight's story was written by Jules Maitland. The music was composed by Rene Garrigank and conducted by Wilbur Hatch. Heard in tonight's cast were Barney Phillips, William Justine, Tom McKee, Jack Crucian, Herbert Ellis, Richard Prena, and Eleanor Tannen.
From 67 years ago, May 8th, 1956, Suspense here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. I want to take a moment here to thank Joseph and Karen and Susie and Robert, all folks who have bought us copies this month, and we appreciate all of you for helping us acquire additional classic radio collections. We did get some upgraded CBS Radio Workshop editions, so we'll have that for you coming up, and we're working on getting a couple of others to help upgrade us. If you go to classicradio.stream, you can help buy me a copy. Help us acquire additional classic radio collections by using the Buy Me a Copy at classicradio.stream. It also helps us maintain our distribution channels, and we appreciate that so very much. That's at classicradio.stream. You can also stream all 21 hours of Classic Radio Theater each and every week, 3 hours each and every day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Tell all your friends the greatest radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.